There's been a trend over the last few years with conservatives claiming to be not far right or conservative, but centrists. They're common sense politics. They're what the people want. Well, why is this? Well, figures like Tim Pool, although he's abandoned it, Konstantin Kisin from trigonometry, he claims to be a centrist. He's not far right. He's a centrist. It's common sense politics. Well, why do they do this? Well, first of all, it's very convenient for the narrative. They, make it seem palpable that, they're not racist, they're not, transphobic, they're just concerned. They have concerns about immigration and housing. And obviously, this is dog whistle politics. They don't really care about housing, they don't really care about making people's lives better. They just don't want brown people in the country. The same with trans. They just don't want trans people existing. So you've got this extreme politics, but they have to sell it. They have to sell it to people online, and they have to make it digestible. And how do you do that? Well, you frame it in a different way. And obviously, to a certain extent, political positioning is somewhat subjective. But to conceive of conservative ideologies as centrist is not true. Centrism is somewhere between left and right. It is. And obviously that's a spectrum. But to say that far-right talking points, and they are far-right talking points, anti-trans, anti-immigration, these are far-right talking points. Because our politics, the Overton window, has shifted far-right in the last few years, with figures like Donald Trump, Suella Braverman, Nigel Farage. These figures have really pushed the politics to an anti-immigration framework, which is far-right politics, but they have to frame it in that way. And I get a lot of comments saying, well, this politics, this 20, 30 years ago, this was considered centrist politics. And this is such an absurd, it's a non-argument really, it's meaningless, because it's saying, 30 years ago, well, that's irrelevant. We've moved on since then. We're 30 years on. We've progressed a lot. And really it just indicates their desire to go back to a point where racism was fine. You could be sexist. You could grab women by the ass. You could grab them by the pussy, as Donald Trump says. You could be transphobic. You could just make jokes and attack people, because that's what they want. They see that as a normal behaviour. They just want to go back to 30 years ago where you could just do this thing and there would be no repercussions. But now there is. You have to be accountable. Well, unless you're Donald Trump and Farage and Boris Johnson, you don't have to be accountable. But the average person is accountable for their behaviour. So this obsession with the notion of this is common sense politics. Well, common sense may be one of the most meaningless words or phrases in the English language, because common sense means flat earthers are right. The idea that, I can't see oxygen or gas, it's not there. The appeal to common sense really just highlights the level of thinking conservatives exemplify, because you can't run a country on common sense. You can't come to critical thinking. You can't come to scientific conclusions or policy ideas through common sense, because it doesn't exist. You can't just assess a situation on anecdote. But that's what they do. They obsess with anecdotes that prove their point. Be it Rochdale, be it they know an immigrant who gamed the system, who got a free house. I mean, it's all anecdote, because papers like to jump on an anecdote, one situation, and imply that this is a bigger problem than it is. But you just need to look at the evidence and go, okay, is this a problem? How do we deal with it? But they're not interested in that. They're just interested in focusing on immigration. It's all race and nationality with these people. That's all they care about, because that's all they've got. And I'm going to talk about it more in my next video. But comment below, why do people fall for this? And people do. People actually do fall for the idea that, no, these aren't far-right ideas. They're just common sense, centrist, sensible ideas. I think you have to be pretty delusional to fall into this trap and not recognise the fact that These policies are racist. But again, I understand it's hard for them to see themselves as racist. Comment below, what is going on here? It's interesting to me and it's kind of sad, but I'll see you in the next video.